Citation game enthusiast, George Maynard here. A while ago, hang on, let me just check how long ago it was. What? 2 whole years?
2 whole years ago, I released the second in my series of backwards Mario and Luigi retrospective videos on the underrated Dream Team, and the thumbnail I drew for it was quite excellent if I do say so myself. I have since gotten lazy and decided to outsource thumbnail art to those more qualified, and if you want my full thoughts on Partners in Time and Superstar Saga, you should subscribe to see my retrospectives for them when they come out who knows how long from now. Though I absolutely do not blame you if you don't trust me to put them out this decade. Anyway, today I'm going to be discussing Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, and its remake that I played for the first time to prepare for this video. Of course, that was over a year ago by now, so this game isn't exactly fresh in my mind, but thankfully I did grow up playing through this game a whole bunch of times, so I'm quite sure I can still do it justice. Of the 3 games I've discussed in this series thus far, each of them have done one thing exceptionally well enough that I'd say it's the best in the series at those specific things. Paper Jam, though I hate to admit it, has the best, most refined battle gameplay. Dream Team has by far the best, most consistent vibes thanks to its theming, stupendous world design and music. And then there's M&L Bis. It boasts the best story and character work in the series. Having Fawful, the memorable sidekick of the series' first villain, return as the main antagonist was a stroke of genius that I'm sure any fan of the franchise would tell you paid off terrifically. Rather than just being innately powerful like most Mario bad guys, Fawful's strength lies in his intelligence and cunning, managing to swiftly topple both of the local monarchs and get the red and green mustaches out of the way with extreme efficiency and speed.
Meatbus was pretty great too, and if the series does ever rise from the dead, I would like him to follow in his boss's footsteps and become the main antagonist of the next game with his cool ice powers. You get it? His cool ice powers. With his cool ice...
On the side of justice, although he's not happy about it, we have Bowser, who is the main focal point of this game and its story. The bros kind of taking a back seat to him this time around. Bowser happens to be my favourite Mario character, mostly because of how hilarious and likeable the RPGs make him, especially when he's begrudgingly on the hero's side. In this game, he's on a mission to regain his castle and punt Fawful into the sun for taking it from him. Bowser has a little buddy in his gut who goes by the name of Chippy, and since she's almost exclusively referred to by that name in this game, as a kid I always forgot that wasn't her actual name. I love the dynamic Bowsman and Chips have. He makes her an honorary minion, and she makes him say please and thank you. Bowsman and Chips is the name of their band, by the way. Bowser plays a mean guitar, and Starlo can't hold any instruments because she lacks the appropriate appendages, but she plays a mean kazoo. In this game, Bowser is exceptionally characterized and has so many great funny moments. Turns out, RPG where Bowser is the main character is a concept which works tremendously well. Of course there's also the bros, and of course there's not much to say about them aside from they're still fun, goofy little guys. Starlo makes fun of Luigi a lot, Mario values Luigi more than a random chest the bog lady offered him. There is a part where Mario gets taken by a sentient sock, and Luigi has to rescue him by wearing the skin of another sentient sock, earning their trust and then turning on them. Then Luigi gives his brother a big hug while soaked in his bodily fluids. It's pretty wholesome stuff. There's some good new characters like Brock Monsieur, the trio of traitors with great character designs, and of course there's the eccentric Doctor. Love that soundbite. The inciting incident for the plot is an epidemic called the Blorbs, which makes you so obese you can barely move. This is thanks to Fawful's dabbling in biological terrorism, and it cripples both local kingdoms, as I said earlier. Bowser goes to kick his bespectacled ass, but Fawful defeats Bowser by making him obese too. Later, the bros go on a quest to get the star cures to cure the obese-itis, but to do so they need to knock this guy over, and to do that they make Luigi obese. Alright, which one of you guys has a fat fetish? Don't want to go too in depth because this is a retrospective and not a review, so I have a free pass to be lazy, but all in all the story here is excellent, has tons of awesome moments, and feats of strength by Bowser that are so cool to see.
And if I had a penny for each time a Mario game had an ancient being of pure evil sealed underneath the game's main town, I'd have 2 pennies. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird it happened twice.
Let's move on to this game's world design and aesthetic, the superficials that make it come alive. This game has tremendous sprite work and animations, especially with Bowser. He's so expressive, and you really feel his girth and raw power in his animations and sound design. Many of the game's other characters have charmingly cartoony animations aplenty, with of course the brothers being the highlight. The world of the game is alright. There's a lot of rather basic feeling Mario locations, basic grassy plains, basic caves, basic forest, etc. But there's a few standout locations. Black Beach is a very creative idea. Who expects to see giant decaying teeth and teeth-themed pokies on a beach? And then there's Cavi Cape, which has tremendous vibes, and I've already made a whole ass video talking specifically about it. Even though it's two-dimensional, the various areas inside Bowser's body are aesthetically interesting and have some fun platforming. And some platforming that makes you want to smash your DS against a wall! The fast travel in this game is very good if you ask me. Bowser has the Chak Roads and the Fawful Express Tunnel to get around quickly, and the bros have the Pipe Plaza inside Bowser. Speaking of which, as a kid, I often wondered what would happen if Bowser were to enter the pipes that lead to his own gut. I always envisioned him just imploding into a shrinking ball of compressed flesh, collapsing in on himself until he simply disappears. That's why Bowser isn't able to jump forwards in this game, because if he could, the imploding flesh ball would only be a mere 2 jumps away.
Okay, so that's actually 3 jumps, not 2, I was wrong.
Lastly but not leastly among the attributes of this game, we have gameplay. And I'm beginning to sound like a broken record here, but the gameplay is really good. There's 3 kinds of battle in BIS. BIS? That's a funny abbreviation for the game. Sounds a bit silly. And each of them are a joy to play. Mario and Luigi bring the classic fun gameplay the series is known for. The giant Bowser fights are very gimmicky but also very fun, awesome set pieces. Unsurprisingly, playing as Kaiju Bowser is extremely satisfying. But honestly, the star of the show here is the regular Bowser fights. As I mentioned earlier, he's remarkably satisfying to play as. Mankind has yet to think of a pastime more gratifying than using Bowser's punch in this game. And the minion special attacks that use the touchscreen are all very fun to use too. Very interactive. M&L BIS, that makes me giggle every time, really is the game in the series with no significant flaws. And pretty much everything is just very well done across the board. Its remake, however...
Hey, I've got a good joke. Why doesn't the Bowser's Inside Story remake have any knives in its kitchen? Because it's pointless. You get it? Because it's pointless. Because it's
Okay, maybe it's not completely pointless. I do think that the new content of Bowser Jr.'s journey is a fun little side mode with a heartwarming story that honestly has a wonderful character arc for Jr. It's again great to see the Koopalings get fleshed out personalities and even their own arcs. And I love to see Kamek and Bowser Jr.'s granddad-grandson relationship, which Origami King continued to portray well later on. And I guess it's nice to see the Dark Star now has its own boss theme. That was a nice surprise. But excellent side mode aside, this game didn't really need to get made since the original holds up very well and it's not like people couldn't already play it on the 3DS. It's a tragedy that this was Alpha Dream's final game before going bankrupt. As great as BIS was, I feel positive that a wholly new game, preferably on Switch rather than the already one foot in the grave 3DS, would have performed far better than this rehash with a title you can't even say in one breath.
Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story plus... plus Bowser's... Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story plus Bowser's Journey. Excellent, hammy overacting, George. Great job. Ow, I fell on the floor and hurt myself.
Aside from the graphical style, there's very little about this game that's different than the original. Let me give you a list of all the changes made in the remake that I remember. Bowser's sprite work and animations are much, much worse than the old ones. They're just way less expressive and charming than they once were. You can't control Mario and Luigi with the D-pad in the 2D sections, and you probably don't need me to tell you that 2D games feel awkward as heck controlled with a circle pad or analog stick. The areas inside Bowser's body all look wrong. Why do you have to change the aesthetics of them? They look fine. Just upgrade the look. Why? It's like they could have changed the way that all of the overworld looked. They didn't do that, because why would they? Why would they change the way that inside Bowser's body looks? Arg! The giant battles are now fully 3D, and the charm of the original sprites is even more missed here. In my opinion, it's easier to make sprite work look great than it is to make 3D graphics look good. It's even harder when the console you're using to try and generate 3D graphics is the 3DS. Dream Team's giant battles looked way better than the ones in this game, thanks to a better visual style and the beautifully bizarre nature of the Dream World's design. I also miss blowing into the mic to breathe fire. Why'd they get rid of that? But even worse is how painfully slow the giant battles have become. I suppose they're going for the realism of big creatures move slower, but these fights are so slowed down that frankly, I didn't enjoy them at all. What was once a treat is now a chore. The Tower of Yik fight especially was honestly one of the dullest, slowest, I wish I was watching paint dry instead of playing this gamest parts of a video game I've ever had the misfortune of sitting through. I would rather play Paper Jam's Paper Toad missions. And perhaps the worst thing of all, they unsatisfyinged Bowser's punch! In order to sell the power of the impact, the enemy normally is flung backwards at high speed after a successful punch. In the original, this would happen even if the punch defeated the enemy, but if Bowser's punch defeats an enemy in the remake, it instantly evaporates upon impact, thoroughly robbing the punch of its formerly delicious flavour. The satisfaction I used to get from finishing a fight with a big excellent punch is now gone. And to make this remake even more pointless, it doesn't even make use of the 3DS's main feature that I really look forward to when I buy a 3DS game. I'm like, ooh, I wonder how this game will look in 3D. Too bad, this game doesn't even play in 3D. I love the way that Dream Team looks. Dream Team looked amazing in 3D. They didn't bother making this game in 3D. It's so pointless. It aggravates me every single time I turn the game on. Every time I go into the game and the little 3D light on the upper screen goes out, I'm like, why? Why? It's the main appeal of this system. It makes everything look so much better. I suppose I am the, number one 3D defender in the 3DS. I think that there's quite a lot of people that didn't really care for it or want to use it, but I, for one, absolutely love the 3D effect. And it is just a sin to make a new game for the 3DS and not use the main appeal of making a game for the 3DS. Imbeciles! Imbeciles! A minor nitpick as well on the side of this, I don't really like how the camera moves around when Bowser walks about. The camera isn't fixed like it is in all the other Mario and Luigi games. It kind of moves around to show more of the area ahead of Bowser, so when you're turning around corners it moves about in an uncomfortable way. I think I got used to it eventually when playing the game, but it felt weird as heck for a long time and it just feels uncomfortable. Talking about the remake makes me melancholy. I doubt I'll ever play it again. If I get the Bowser Inside story itch, I'll just play the original and use the remake to do Bowser Jr.'s journey. So, to summarise, I think Bowser's Inside Story was the most well-rounded game in the series, with, I'd say, the best story of the bunch. Probably. The quality of the story for an entire game is a really difficult thing to quantify. The quality of the story for an entire game is a really difficult thing to quantify exactly, and they all have their own very strong points. So when it comes to my ongoing tier list for this series, it's going to get harder and harder to rank them. For a long time, I thought Partners in Time was my favourite. Then for an even longer time, I thought Bowser's Inside Story was my favourite. But now that I'm comparing it to Dream Team, thinking of which I like more, Dream Team is sparking more joy. Maybe it's just because the remake was the version I played most recently and it left a bad taste in my mouth. But for now I'm going to give Dream Team the edge, even if only a little bit. But regarding the remake, for its crimes of not only making me think less of one of my favourite games, existing seemingly only to reduce the quality of the original, but also for being essentially what killed Alpha Dream and perhaps this series forever, I sentence it to the bottom of the list. I'm sure that if I hadn't played the original version and was therefore able to appreciate this game on its own merits, I'd think much more highly of it. It still, of course, contains the same great story of the original and then some. It's basically the same game, but a little worse, with a nice little side mode added on. So if I were ranking it strictly by quality, it'd go over here. But this is my list and I'm feeling spiteful. I can see where Alpha Dream were coming from when they chose to make the Bowser's Inside Story remake. They'd earned a lot of ill will with the release of Paper Jam, and the fans wanted a game akin to the older ones, with a unique story and world and good writing. So Alpha Dream thought it best to take what is widely considered to be the best game in the series and remade it in hopes of winning back the trust of the fans. But sadly, their efforts reeked of pointlessness. The original didn't need modernising like Superstar Saga did. The original was already available for 3DS, for a much cheaper price. The customers' interest had already moved on to the new Switch console, and they missed the point of what the fans really wanted. A new game that moved the series forward, not a rehash.
That may be a sad note to end the video on, but hey, so was Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story. Plus Bowser Jr.'s journey for Alpha Dream and the Mario and Luigi series as a whole. Until next time, farewell everyone.
Okay, maybe it's not completely pointless. I do think that the new content of BJ's journey is a fun little side mode with... Oh no, BJ is not a good abbreviation for Bowser Jr. Oh dear. No, I'm going to say his full name. I just realized that. Oof.